Welcome, everybody, to Drive Thru Sports with Adam and Paul. Today, as I have to look at my watch again, is Monday, July the 20th, 2020. Adam Freeman here in Atlanta, Georgia. Paul Brees is in Brentwood, Tennessee. And Andrew Wilson, our very special guest, assistant coach, James Madison University, and former Harrison Hoya, coming to us from Virginia. Andrew, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm really excited to be here, and always love being a part of Hoya Nation and Hoya Sports.
All right. Well, you were always a part of that, and thinking back to those times, my first year I think was your sophomore year under Coach Meiske, and I don't I don't know if patient intensity had become a word yet. I think that came along after you left, but y'all had some really good teams back then. And I guess my first question would be, what was your best game that you remember playing in high school? Maybe coming out game.
It's funny, Adam, because I probably remember the bad games more than the good ones. And actually, I tell people all the time, we had two of the best basketball teams in the history of Harrison.
No doubt.
We don't have one banner hanging in the gym to reflect that. And it's something that still bothers me to this day. I like to swing through Harrison every few years just to recruit, just to stop in and say hello to the kids or the coaches that are still there. And that's something that really bothers me. My junior year, we were ranked second in the state, and we lost in the first round of the region tournament to a team that we had blasted twice. And
I remember, listen, you weren't the only one that shed a tear that night. It was awful. It was awful.
And so that was probably the best team that I was ever a part of. That was the 98-99 team at Harrison. And then my senior year, we had another really good team. I think we were 22-5 and ranked like fifth in the state, and ended up making the first round of the state tournament, but lost to Marietta against a really good team. And those two games still stick with me. Even till today, and that was 20 years ago that those games happened. But, man, I had an unbelievable experience at Harrison. Just I have a lot of memories of guys that I played with, of different games. To answer your question, what was my best game at Harrison? I don't know if I can remember, one particular game. I know my senior year, when we were playing McEachern in the first round of the sub-region tournament, and we were tight. We were really tight. We were the number one seed in the tournament. We had lost the year before as the number one seed in that game. And so we came in and we were not playing like ourselves. And it came down to the wire. And we were down by 1 point, the last possession of the game. And I can remember that coach just put the ball in my hands. And if we were going to lose that game, we were going to lose it by me taking the last shot. And I can remember I told myself I was not passing the ball no matter what. And I don't know if that was the right mentality or the wrong. It ended up working out. I threw up some crazy shot with like a couple seconds left, and I got fouled and made the shot. And so that was one of my great memories from high school, beating our arch rival at the time and getting an opportunity to advance to the state tournament. Something that we weren't able to do the year before.
Yeah, and that was the Chris Ellis team from Marietta? The Marietta team?
Yes,
Chris Ellis, Dale Ellis' son. Yeah.
Yep.
And that McEachern team that you're talking about was loaded. Loaded. I don't know if that was the Morris Allman, Josh Smith team.
No, it was not that team.
Okay.
They were good. They weren't quite that good.
Yeah. Those guys came in a couple years after you and just blitzed us. I mean, it was. Of course, we had a little bit of a downturn after you guys left and before we came back to prominence. But that group that you played with, Larry Dudas, Drew Coffey,
Cam Fitch.
Yeah, Cam. I mean, I run into him every now and then. Mark Cooley lives like 3 miles from me, and I run into him every now and then as well. Um, do you remember? I just remember my favorite Mark Cooley memory was when he tried to dunk and he missed, and he didn't even wait for Meisky to pull him out. He just walked straight to the bench.
You know what's funny? I've actually gotten really reconnected with Mark Cooley. My wife is actually really close friends with his wife.
Yeah.
So we are actually have gotten really reconnected. It's been a lot of fun. You know, Mark's always been a really fun guy. And,
Oh yeah.
He's always got good stories. And
oh yeah.
So we actually talk about that very moment that you're talking about right now. Yeah, it was, you know what? It was such a great group of guys. And I actually still keep in touch with a lot of guys. I'm still really close with Larry Dudas, who's now a doctor there in the Atlanta area. And I keep close with a lot of guys. And I've always said this, one of the true marks of a good team is how successful guys become later on in life. And if you go down the line with that group of guys, all of them are successful at different fields and everything that they're doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm just really proud to have been a part and to have been there during that period of time.
Yeah, it was a great time. You graduate from Harrison, you move on to Florida State. Were there ever any other schools? I know your mom was a Florida State grad, right?
That is correct.
And did that have a heavy? Did you get pushed that way?
Well, not only did my mom go to Florida State, but my dad went to Florida State as well. And
Okay.
So my dad was actually an athlete at Florida State. He played baseball there. And so I tell people all the time that Florida State was really, truly my dream school growing up. And I don't think it would have mattered if Mike Krzyzewski would have offered me a scholarship to go to Duke. I was so just
Indoctrinated.
Yeah, just tunnel vision towards going to Florida State. I grew up going to football games and basketball games as a kid. And so it really was. I think my parents put me in Florida State diapers, you know, when I was growing up.
That wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me. No.
It truly was my dream school. The other school that I really did consider and just had a great relationship with him was Bobby Cremins at Georgia Tech. And, you know, growing up 20, 25 minutes from their campus and having an opportunity to go down to their campus on a regular basis. And I ended up working for Coach Cremins at College of Charleston for 6 years. And I tell people all the time that Bobby Cremins, not only is he a great basketball coach, but he is the kindest, most genuine person I've ever met in my entire life. And I really lucked out in my opportunity to get to go work for him at Charleston right out of playing at Florida State. I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely no idea. He actually kept up a relationship with me during the time that I was at Florida State for my 6 years. He got into ACC commentating after he retired from Georgia Tech in 2000, which ended up being my senior year. And so I didn't want to go to school somewhere where I didn't know who the coach was going to be. There was a lot of rumors flying around Atlanta that maybe he was going to step down. And so he ended up doing that. And so he was out of coaching until 2006 when I decided that I wanted to get into coaching. And so, crazy story, he ends up taking the College of Charleston job. I was using him as a reference to help call other coaches and other coaching staff to help get my foot in the door, to help get me a job somewhere.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, in the middle of July, he ends up getting the College of Charleston job after Greg Marshall from Winthrop had taken the job at College of Charleston for 1 day and then gone back to Winthrop and decided he didn't want it.
Oh, so, wow. Now, Marshall, is he the guy that's at Wichita State now?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
And so it's just crazy the way that the dominoes fell. And I just got really, really lucky with a guy that basically I had a relationship with, and he was really responsible for keeping that relationship up. But it just kind of shows you the type of guy that he is. He had nothing to gain out of keeping a relationship with me. He would write me letters throughout every season that I was at Florida State. So he would probably commentate maybe 2 or 3 of our games every year, and then would write me a handwritten letter after every game. It was crazy. And it really taught me a lot, even to this day, about relationships and how important they are.
Yeah, and as a coach, he would know better than anybody. So that was your first coaching job, was at College of Charleston, and you were there with him, you said, for 6 years, and then you came back to Georgia.
That's right.
Georgia Southern.
Yeah, there was one small stop in between. So kind of a long story, but Coach Kremens retired from College of Charleston, was having some minor health issues. And so, of course, when your head coach retires in college, that means all the assistants are out of a job.
Right.
And so you have to go find a job. And so I was really fortunate. I was able to get on at Binghamton University up in New York for 1 year. And my brother, my older brother, who's 6 years older, who played at Harrison as well, happened to live in Binghamton, New York. So he actually helped get me the job up there. And so I went up there for 1 season. And then a guy who I worked with at College of Charleston, who was our associate head coach, a guy named Mark Byington, who is now my boss here at James Madison, got the head coaching job at Georgia Southern and brought me with him. And so I spent 7 years at Georgia Southern, and then he just got the head coaching job here at James Madison.
Awesome. So it's a fraternity of coaches. I mean, we found that out with, talking to Zach Yenzer yesterday. It's the same thing in football.
It is
a very tight-knit community.
It is. It can be an interesting way to make a living sometimes. And, it can be a very, very difficult profession sometimes, but it can also be a very rewarding profession too. And I've been really, really fortunate to work for good people. Like I talked about, working at Charleston for 6 years with Bobby Kremens, and then having the opportunity to come work for Mark Byington at Georgia Southern, a guy who I had just worked with for 6 years. And now getting the opportunity to come up here with him, relationships matter. And it's really, really important in this profession as an assistant coach, someone who aspires to be a head coach at some point, that you work with people that you trust and that you think are really good. And so I've just been really fortunate to be in that boat.
Paul, what you got? I know you got some.
I got a ton of questions, Coach. I'm not going to lie to you. I got to reflect back to your Florida State days real quick. Are you still a record holder?
I probably hold a record holder for a few things, and
okay.
It wasn't a record. None of those records I broke were records that I intended to break when I went there. I can promise you that.
When I kind of read up on you, I was like, wow, that is a first, right? So first 6 year, is that in games played as well, right?
Yeah, so I was actually the first 6 year athlete in ACC history.
Yeah.
And my second and third year at Florida State, I was hurt. So I had 2 consecutive years of being out. And I think that started back with Freeman. All the poor treatment I was getting from Adam Freeman back in the day at Harrison. It finally caught up.
Oh, wow.
And,
hey, I guarantee you probably didn't have anybody at Florida State as good as me. Come on.
I tell you what, if my trainer at Florida State heard those words come out of my mouth, he might hunt you down. But the trainer at Florida State was actually there for 30 years. He's a legendary guy, a guy that connected like 4 different decades of Florida State basketball players.
Wow.
And was actually a great guy. He recently retired, but we kind of joke when we talk. He kind of kept me together in a way. And my second year, first game of the year against Florida, I tore my MCL. And so rehabbed, I was able to come back like around, real late in the season, but there was just no point to come back and burn a year of eligibility at that point. So my third year, we went through a coaching change. The guy who had recruited me there, Steve Robinson, got let go, and Leonard Hamilton came in. And so he took over during the time when the program was down. And so we needed an injection of life, and Leonard Hamilton was able to do that. And I ended up winning a starting position his first year there. And the 5th game of the year against Miami, I blew my wrist out. I went up for a layup, and a kid took my legs out from underneath me, came down on my wrist, and boom, I was out for the year. And so I was able to get a medical red shirt for that year as well. And there was no guarantee that the NCAA was going to give that to me. it was pretty unusual at that point on consecutive seasons to get medical red shirts. And so I was going into my 4th year as a sophomore eligibility-wise at Florida State. And so my coaches used to give me a hard time that I was stealing all the taxpayers' money down there at Florida State. And but I wasn't complaining. I didn't know at that time that I wanted to get into coaching, but it ended up being a blessing in disguise. It just gave me an opportunity to mature, get 2 extra years of school. I ended up finishing my master's degree while I was still playing at Florida State. And so I was able to take advantage of my time there. And, so it was a great experience. I've got great memories from being at Florida State and being there for 6 years. So I did. I broke that record. And then I think at the time when I graduated, I held the record for the most games played at Florida State. I think that record has been broken since then. Teams play more games now every season. And so I think that record has been broken.
Yeah.
But those were 2 of the records that I broke when I graduated from there. And,
and the picture behind me, I think that's that's after the Wake game, isn't it?
That is after the Wake game. That's pretty good there, Freeman.
Yeah.
Most people guessed that was the Duke game. And that was when Wake Forest was ranked number 1 in the country, and they had Chris Paul on their team.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had some great memories from home. We were a really, really good team at Florida State at home.
Yes.
And when I played in the league, there was only 9 teams in the ACC. So it was a very unforgiving schedule. You had to play everybody twice. So you were playing Carolina at home and on the road. You were playing Duke at home and on the road. And at the time with our program where it was, especially my first couple years, let me put it this way. My 6 years in the ACC, the national champion came from the ACC 3 out of those 6 years. And so it was a really, really, good time for the ACC when I was playing there.
Hey, let me jump ahead, Adam, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
While at Georgia Southern, you coached a young man by the name of Jake Alsmiller.
That is correct. CPA, Nashville's finest.
Well, he went to the middle school that I coached, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if he got better or worse, but we'll say he got better, right?
You know what?
Did you always give? I was going to say, did you always give him the green light because you can't slow him down once he takes the first one.
Jake can really shoot the ball. Jake had a really good career for us.
Yeah.
And created a really good niche for himself. We had a great guard at Georgia Southern by the name of Tookie Brown, who ended up being our all-time leading scorer.
Right. And
Jake was kind of able to kind of feed off of him because all the scouting reports were geared on stopping our great player. And so he was able to get a lot of open shots. But he was a really good player for us. Started for us for all 4 years.
Yeah.
Ended up being – he graduated, I think, as our all-time wins leader at Georgia Southern. And, I actually talked to Jake yesterday. It's funny you brought his name up. And he's back coaching. He's going to coach the freshman team this year at CPA. And finished up being the graduate assistant there at Belmont.
Belmont, yeah. Yeah, so I guess my last question in the whole coaching realm here is you were involved in the Jay Billis coaching academy. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, so Jay Billis runs a skills academy for high school kids where he invites about 250 of the top players in the country to come to Queens University in Charlotte every year. Okay. And Jay lives there in the neighborhood about 2 miles away from Queens University.
Right.
And it was a great opportunity. So he invited 12 Division I coaches who he believed were on the verge of becoming a Division I head coach. And so I was fortunate enough to get invited to that last summer. Was the first summer that he invited the college coaches. Now, we're not allowed to work the camp because we're not allowed to be around the college prospects.
Sure.
So we were separated from all the campers, but it was an unbelievable opportunity. And Jay is really hands-on with the entire thing. It's not one of those camps where he just puts his name on it just to make money. So he actually invited us over to his house every night that we were there. There was 12 coaches that converged on Queens University. We slept in the dorms together. It ended up being a really, really cool experience. We're actually, all of the coaches that got invited to it are all really close friends now. We all get together at the Final Four now every year. And I've kind of started our own little network of coaches. And so it was one of those things where we did a lot of media training, where we would do mock interviews. We did interviews with ADs, who he invited to the camp. It was a really, really good experience. And so I was really fortunate to be involved with that.
Yeah. I mean, just the connections you make from those, because obviously somebody's going to hit it big, right? And hopefully it'll be you. But,
That's the hope. And actually, something that's really cool is, like, when you go to stuff like that, you learn a lot, and it's very useful from a X's and O's standpoint and stuff like that. But the biggest thing that you take is the relationship aspect of it. And I wasn't sure how it was going to go, just because Jay Billis, in a way, is the face of college basketball right now.
Oh, definitely.
And I've got a personal relationship with him now. I can pick up the phone at any time and call him or text him. He actually, during this Corona pandemic, we were trying to find guest speakers to come and Zoom with our team, just to motivate them in different ways. And he was kind enough to come on with our team here at James Madison, and for one day, and talk to our guys for a couple of hours, and ended up where I asked him to speak for about 15 to 20 minutes, and it ended up turning into like a 2 or 3 hour deal where our guys were interactive and asking questions. And so it was really, really cool. And, I think it'll be a thing where, our guys feel like they have a relationship with him now. And so when they see him on College Game Day, or, see him on TV, on ESPN, that'll be a cool thing for them to be able to say that they had a chance to speak with him.
That's awesome. So as you prepare for this year, what do you think, or what teams are you going to think are going to give you the biggest challenge in your league?
Well, I can tell you this, Freeman. We got the job here, for a reason. And the last coaching staff got let go from here, and so we're taking over a program that finished last in the league last year. We were 2-16 in the CAA, and the great thing is we really inherited a group of kids that are hungry to win, and they're great kids. They stand for the right things. They're really good students, and we don't have to worry about what our guys do off the court. And so that's been a major bonus. They're all buying in, to what we're trying to do. We signed 8 new guys. So we've got 5 guys returning from our roster, and we signed 8 guys during the pandemic. And so that was interesting. Wow. Because we couldn't go out and physically see any of these kids play or work out or visit with them or any of their families. So we did it all through Zoom, and did it all virtually. But one great thing about our program, and you can kind of see it there behind Paul, is we've got an unbelievable facility to sell right now.
Yeah.
And I tell kids all the time, the facility that we're moving into blows away what I played in at Florida State. It's not even close. And it's going to be one of the nicest facilities in the country. It's definitely going to be the nice facility in the CAA. To answer your question, Adam, probably the 3 or 4 best programs in our league over the last 5 years have been Northeastern, College of Charleston, Hofstra, and probably UNC Wilmington. And so the CAA is a league that is rich in basketball tradition. It's a basketball league. It's a league that devotes all of its resources towards men's basketball. There's great facilities. There's great tradition. There's really good coaches. So it's a fun league. Up until about 5 years ago, the CAA was getting 3 or 4 teams in the NCAA tournament every year.
Yeah.
And that's when George Mason and Old Dominion and VCU were all in the league. Now it's changed since then, but there's still a lot of really good programs in the league. So, we feel like the situation that we're taking over right now is very similar to what we took over at Georgia Southern 7 years ago, where JMU is a big-time football school.
Oh, yeah.
Georgia Southern was a big-time football school. And the program, for whatever reason, has been struggling in recent memory. But we feel like everything's in place from a facility standpoint to a resource standpoint. Our campus is one of the most beautiful campuses I've ever stepped foot on. There's 22,000 students here. It's a tremendous place, and we've got a great product to sell. We don't see any reason why we can't become one of the best programs in the league very quickly. Like, we don't feel like it's going to be a big rebuilding job. We think we're going to be able to come in here, hit the ground running, and that's not to make light of how much ground we have to make up with some of the other programs, but we feel like we can do it and do it quickly.
Well, let me jump in and talk about your roster. It seems like, you got your Virginia kids, obviously, but then after that, I mean, they're scattered, right? It seems like, Rashawn Fredericks, did he come from UAB during the COVID?
He did. So, one of the different things, you're correct, to answer your question. When we took the job, it was such an unusual time with everything going on. So actually today, as I'm sitting here talking to you guys, we just met all of our players for the first time in person about 2 hours ago.
Oh, wow.
And we took the job in late March. All of our kids just arrived on campus today. We all got tested for COVID today. And if everything goes as planned, we'll be able to start workouts next Monday.
Okay.
But yes, we feel like we can recruit players from the entire East Coast, from, the New England area all the way down to Florida. We're kind of in that mid-Atlantic area that's accessible to the Southeast and to the Northeast. JMU is a big-time academic school, so it's going to appeal to a lot of people around the entire country. We took 5 transfers in this first recruiting class. And although transfers are becoming more of the norm in college basketball,
right,
we built our program at Georgia Southern off recruiting high school kids and being able to develop them. And we redshirted a lot of kids at Georgia Southern. Now, with the situation we took over, with not being able to get out and physically go see kids, we felt like the transfer route was an avenue that we could get a lot of good players and older players that were proven. And so we signed 5 transfers. One of them was the kid that you brought up, Rashawn Fredericks, who started his career at Cincinnati, played for Mick Cronin in every game on a team that went to the Sweet 16. And then he transferred to UAB once he took the UCLA job. And so we were able to get him as a graduate transfer. He'll be eligible right away. We took a transfer from San Diego State, a 6'11" kid, who we think is going to come in and really help us defensively. We took a transfer from Mount St. Mary's, who was freshman of the year in the Northeast Conference. A transfer from Louisiana Monroe. We actually played against him every year because they were in the Sun Belt. They were in the same conference as Georgia Southern. And so we're excited about the group we have coming in. All the transfers are proven. They're proven at the college level. And then we signed 3 freshmen as well, who we beat out some really good schools to get these freshmen that are coming in. And so some of the kids we had recruited and already known about at Georgia Southern. So we had developed relationships with them and their families. But we're really excited about this group. It's with 8 new guys coming in and 5 kids that we've never coached before that we inherit, we're really excited about this group.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the 3 freshmen, South Carolina, Decatur, Georgia, and Florida. So, again, you talked about the relationships you'd already built. So, obviously, you got a recruiting area down there now that you can kind of bring up north. And, basketball in the South is no joke, right?
Right. That's right. And
Plenty
Coach Byington kind of hired his staff accordingly.
Sure.
He hired an assistant coach when he got here. We brought 3 of our guys from our staff at Georgia Southern. Myself being one of those 3. We brought our director of basketball operations, and then we brought a guy named John Cremens, who was actually Bobby Cremens' nephew, who worked for us at Georgia Southern as well. So a lot of our recruiting ties are in the Carolinas, in Georgia, and in Florida. But we hired an assistant coach who's been in the D.C. area for a long time. With us being an hour and 45 minutes from the D.C. area, there's so many players in that DMV area. And we have such a large, alumni presence from JMU up there that we're going to have to be able to get up into that area and get players.
Right.
Well, Andrew, I know you got a meeting here coming up, so we'll let you get prepared for that. But I know I speak for Paul when I say really appreciate you spending some time with us. It was great to catch up with you. I think the last time I saw you was at the Under Armour Classic up there at Lake Point. You were doing some recruiting for Georgia Southern, but really appreciate your time today. And with that facility and with the staff that you guys have, I think you guys are going to be successful, and we'll be following your career path as it moves forward. And once a Hoya, always a Hoya. But you're a Duke now, so if you run into Grant Kane, tell him I said hello.
Well, he might be upset that you didn't get him on here.
Well, I'm gonna have to reach out to him because now you're gonna feel slighted. So.
Well, I'll say this, Freeman, before we get off here. We actually play at Georgia Tech this year.
Okay.
So you got a ticket to the Georgia Tech game if you want to come down there to it.
All right.
Just hit me up. Look at our schedule. See if that day works for you. And I'll say this, man. You were one of my all-time favorites at Harrison. I mean that, man. I used to enjoy coming in the training room and hanging out with you. I knew you'd always take good care of us, but you're one of my all-time favorites from Harrison, man. I mean that.
Well, I appreciate it. We had some fun. We definitely did. My favorite time of day was when the bell rang at 3:30. I get to go in the training room and do my athletic training stuff outside of the classroom. My classroom is done for the day.
I just remember you being a huge Kentucky fan, and trying to bust your chops about wearing all your Kentucky gear around there. And I was never much of a Kentucky fan growing up, and so.
I know. ACC guy. I know you're still sore about Kentucky whipping them in '93.
They whipped Jamal Mashburn and all those guys. Oh man.
Well, Andrew, I appreciate it. Tell Lisa I said hello, and I know you guys got some boxes to unpack probably.
Well, we move in August 12th is our move-in date. So I've been away from the family for a while. They're actually down in Florida staying at my parents' house.
Okay.
And, so I'll be really, really happy when we can get the family back together.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, want to make sure that everybody follows us on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Spotify. That's Drive Thru Sports with Adam and Paul. Follow us on Twitter at D-Thru Sports, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, Drive Thru Sports with Adam and Paul. For Paul Brees in Brentwood, Tennessee, and Andrew Wilson at James Madison University in Virginia, I'm Adam Freeman. You've been listening to Drive Thru Sports with Adam and Paul.